I was first introduced to the Resident Evil series through Resident Evil 7. Watching popular content creators play the game was extremely enjoyable. Later, when Resident Evil Village was released, I watched a friend play it from start to finish, and I found it just as entertaining. Although I became interested in the series, I didn't immediately look into the earlier games. When Resident Evil 9 was announced, I felt genuinely excited and wanted to try playing the game for myself. My friends encouraged me to play at least one Resident Evil game, and I started considering it seriously. Around that time, I saw Moist Critical do a Resident Evil marathon, which inspired me to try it too. With my friends' encouragement and a series-wide sale, I decided to buy all the Resident Evil games through Resident Evil 1 through 8 plus Revelations 1 and 2. In this video, I want to talk about my experience through the Resident Evil games and share my thoughts on each one. So let's start with Resident Evil 1. The Resident Evil 1 remake was the first game in the series that I played, and I chose Jill as my character. I only played it through it once, but the game's atmosphere generally scared me, especially since I'm usually afraid of horror games. The horror elements were effective. The zombies constantly chasing me and sometimes turning into Crimson Heads, which made them even harder to defeat despite the fear. I actually enjoyed solving the puzzles, and they helped me become more comfortable with the game's tense moments, being chased and experiencing jump scares. My main complaint is that I wish Jill expressed her thoughts out loud more often as she explored and encountered strange things. I understand it's an older game, so it's not a huge issue, but hearing more of Jill's reaction would have made the experience even better for me. Overall, Resident Evil 1 Remake was fun and a memorable experience, and I would give it a 7 out of 10. Next up, Resident Evil 2 Original. With Resident Evil 1 Remake, I didn't play with tank controls, but with Resident Evil 2, I had to. I struggled with the tank controls. I couldn't move my character for 5 minutes. I didn't understand how to move or control it. Eventually, I figured it out, but tank controls just aren't my thing. I wanted to complete Resident Evil 2 as quickly as possible. I only played this one time because I was planning to play Resident Evil 2 Remake, so I only play as Leon only. Resident Evil 2 was a great game, but I didn't care for the tank controls. Overall, I give it a 7 out of 10. Resident Evil 2 Remake was an absolute delight. They did an exceptional job developing the characters and crafting an engaging storyline. My complaint from Resident Evil 1 was that I wish the characters would talk more about the events unfolding around them. They addressed this in the remake, and the characters would say little things about when they kill zombies. If you're interested, I streamed my gameplay as Claire for both first run and second run on YouTube. In my opinion, the Resident Evil 2 Remake is my third favorite Resident Evil game, 9 out of 10. Resident Evil 3, in my opinion, is the best old school Resident Evil formula. The controls and the dodging mechanics are fantastic. Although I don't like the tank controls, I still believe they improved slightly. Jill is a great character, and this game made me love her even more. Surprisingly, this is my number one favorite Resident Evil game, despite the tank controls. I love the game focused on Jill and that it takes place simultaneously with Resident Evil 2. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Resident Evil 3, I enjoyed it. However, I understand that many people dislike it due to Jill's design and the removal of certain content from the original game. While I personally didn't like Jill's new design and the fact that the devs cut out content, despite these criticisms, I had a good time playing the game. I had a fun experience and I also streamed it, so feel free again to check it out if you're interested. One of the things I appreciate about Remake was fleshing out Jill's character and the portrayal of her trauma from the events from the first game. I particularly enjoyed her side banter and her badassness. Although I wish they hadn't cut content and done a better job with her character design, I can't deny that I had a great time playing the game. Overall, I rated it 8 out of 10. Resident Evil 4 Original was an incredible game. It introduced a fresh perspective to the series, and the developers executed it exceptionally well. I thoroughly enjoyed the game's cheesy humor and the coolness of Leon's one-hit lines. However, I did have some issues with aiming, which I contribute to my own lack of skill. The game was fantastic, with great voice acting and storytelling. I didn't play Separate Ways because I wanted to experience it in the remake, but I definitely revisited the original version. Resident Evil 4 holds second spot of my favorite Resident Evil games. Overall, a solid 9 out of 10. Right off the back, Resident Evil 4 Remake is cool and the gunplay was awesome, but it was not for me. I enjoy Resident Evil 4 Original a lot more. I know the devs wanted 4 Remake to be more serious, which they did execute well, but the goofiness, the cheesiness, and the banter, I love it in the original. I will say I enjoyed Separate Ways a lot. Ada is my favorite character of all time, second is Jill. They did a great job fleshing out her character, even with Ashley. I didn't see myself playing the base game for RE4, but I will go back to Separate Ways because I really love Ada, 8 out of 10. Resident Evil Revelation 1 stands out as a unique departure from the series' traditional format, incorporating episodic gameplay elements that I found intriguing. This installment marks Jill Valentine's final appearance in the series aside from Resident Evil 5. It saddens me that she hasn't been featured in any subsequent games, as she was the main protagonist throughout her journey. The game serves as a fitting send-off to Jill, giving her a central role in the narrative. I thoroughly enjoyed the game, particularly the captivating stories and the well-developed characters. I hope we get to see her in future games one day. Overall, I rate it 8.5 out of 10. Resident Evil 5 is a co-op game. I played it with a friend. It was enjoyable. I played as Sheva, a cool character. The story was interesting, and we saw Jill, which was great. I don't care for Chris as a character. I dislike the military personality, and in Village, he didn't explain anything to Ethan, which annoyed me. The final boss was poorly designed, and the quick time for Sheva's cliff falling was frustrating. Overall, a 6 out of 10. Resident Evil 2 Revelations was a great experience. I really enjoyed the story and wish they had continued it. The game lets us explore Barry's relationship with his daughter Mora and also brings back Claire back in action. It's awesome to revisit these characters and see their dynamic unfold. For Resident Evil fans who haven't played Revelations 1 or 2, I highly recommend giving them a try. I rated it 8.5 out of 10. Resident Evil 6 is a mixed experience for me. The gameplay was enjoyable, and it was pretty funny that the devs said Resident Evil 9 takes place after 6. It was also exciting to see the introduction of Wesker's son Jake and the return of Sherry. However, the story was extremely rough. By the time I finished the game, my head was hurting, and I have no plans to revisit it. Among the campaigns, I think Leon's and Jake's are the best. Leon's campaign felt more like a classic Resident Evil experience, and I really enjoyed his story and the character Helena. Jake's campaign was fascinating because he is Wesker's son, and I was curious to see his character development. It was also great to see Sherry again. I enjoyed Ada's campaign as well, although that's most likely because she's Ada. Overall, Resident Evil 6 is my least favorite entry in the series, and I would give it a 5 out of 10. Resident Evil 7 has been a full circle moment for me. I went from watching content creators play it to finally experience it for myself. Resident Evil 7 was an incredible experience. I had a lot of fun, and I even streamed it. So feel free to check out my playthrough if you're interested. The game is very special to me because it introduced me to the Resident Evil series. I spent countless hours watching gameplay of others playing it. This is my 4th Resident Evil game, and Resident Evil Revelations 1 being 5th. Resident Evil 7, its own magical, haunting way, from the intense horror atmosphere to jump scares and thrilling chase scene sequences. It even helped me overcome my fear of horror games, and I'm now excited to explore more games in this genre. I'll think about Resident Evil 7 more fondly. Overall, I rate Resident Evil 7 a solid 9 out of 10. I recently played Resident Evil Village. I initially started streaming it, but decided to stop and delete the VOD because I wasn't in the right mood to stream. I wanted to enjoy the game privately, and I apologize to anyone who was looking forward to my playthrough. Overall, Village was a lot of fun. I played the entire game in third-person mode, which gave it more of a nostalgic feel to the classic Resident Evil games. I thought it was a very satisfying conclusion to Ethan's story, and it set up some exciting possibility for his daughter Rose. However, I did have some complaints about the boss order. I personally think the game should have started off with the fish boss, the dollhouse, and then Lady Demetria. By starting with Lady D and completing her castle early, the game lost some of its excitement until Heisenberg's section. As for me as a character, in both Resident Evil 7 and Village, she is a fascinating character. Some might even call her morally gray or particularly responsible for some of Ethan's struggles. She left Ethan in the dark about key events like how Jack Baker killed Ethan and that Ethan is essentially made of mold. I like Mia as a character, but she's far from innocent. Village is a great and I had a good time, and I give it an 8.5 out of 10. That's my thoughts on Resident Evil games I played. I skipped Code Veronica because I didn't want to deal with tank controls. I really hope they remake Code Veronica and Resident Evil 0 with more modern and comfortable controls. I didn't go too deeply into story for each game because there's still so much I miss, and I'm not confident that I fully understand it yet. Even so, Resident Evil series has become my second favorite game series of all time, right behind Zelda. I can't wait to play Resident Evil 9. I hope you join me when I start playing it later this month. Thank you for watching and have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.